Let's resume where we left off the previous time. Before I knew it, Hut had been behind me, removing the coffee cup from my grasp and giving me a tearful look. My heart pounded. That night was the beginning of all that had happened with her. Robert. Thompson. Robert. My name was called just as I was ready to settle into the couch in the waiting area. The tone of the voice seemed a little abrupt. Was it because I didn't arrive at my appointed time? I didn't want to be late, really. I informed them ahead of time that I would be leaving promptly due to a dentist appointment. Nonetheless, I was delayed by my manager, Amy. This is something she always does on purpose. Damn you, Amy, that female boss. The dentist was examining my x-ray angrily when I hurried into the examination room. "It's not a cavity," he declared. I exclaimed in shock as I sat in the examination chair. "Your toothache is caused by clenching. Not only do you grind your teeth while you sleep, but you also clench your teeth involuntarily all the time. Are you experiencing any stress at work?" He was right on the money. "I'll give you some painkillers again, but be aware and try not to clench your teeth." I was taken aback. Humans have a tendency to clench their teeth when they are under stress, and doing so repeatedly can make them hurt. Amy, my female supervisor, is the main source of my stress. After all, she believes that a subordinate's mistakes are their own, but their successes are hers. She nitpicks all the time and gets upset if things don't go her way. She is skilled at making disparaging comments to subordinates. She doesn't like the possibility that the boss is to blame for my toothache. Near my office, in a 27-story, mixed-use building, was the dentist's office on the 3rd floor. I planned to eat dinner in the basement food court after completing my checkup shortly after 7:30 p.m. and waiting for the elevator. Unusually, when the descending elevator arrived, nobody else was there. "Is the 1st floor okay for you?" The response to my request to see the basement floor was a straightforward yes. She most likely works for a business that occupies this structure. It was not the first time we had used the elevator together. She is incredibly beautiful. I mean, absolutely amazing. The open button allowing everyone to get on and off is always held by her at the control panel, and she rapidly presses the close button before leaving. I had given her the nickname Elevator Lady in private, and I always looked forward to seeing her in the elevator. However, I never thought I would see her again after seeing the dentist and spend some time with her alone. I found myself wishing the elevator would just stop for some reason when suddenly I felt a strong jolt from below. It's an earthquake. The elevator actually stopped. The lights went out and the emergency lights turned on at the same time. My right arm was suddenly yanked tight. She, in her shock, had grabbed onto my bicep with both her hands. I was frozen, unable to move, just standing there. It felt like a long time, but in reality, it was only a few seconds, maybe several. Then the elevator began moving again, stopping at the nearest floor, and the doors opened. "It's okay now. Let's get out." She quickly let go of my arm. Then, blushing, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and gave a nod. We both exited the elevator side by side. She nodded again and began to walk away. "Excuse me," before I could think, I had called out to her. She stopped and looked back at me. I said, If you'd like, maybe we could grab a meal together." She looked puzzled and tilted her head. "You know, since we both got scared. But I guess that's a bit forward, isn't it?" I felt like I was about to burst into flames. I've never tried picking up anyone before. "Do you think the restaurants are still open after that quake?" And so we headed to the underground food court. The places were still operating as usual. Wanting to impress, I chose an upscale-looking sushi restaurant. "I'm sorry about earlier," Hut said. "For what?" "For grabbing onto your arm." "Don't worry about it." "It's not a big deal," I replied. She continued a little shyly with a smile on her face. "It's been a while since I did that. I used to do it all the time as a kid. I would just cling on to anyone without thinking. But when I was 6 or 7, I got separated from my parents at a fair. I thought I was holding onto my dad's pants in the crowd, but it turned out to be a stranger. "So you got lost because of that?" I asked. "Yes, it was a college-aged guy. He took me to a lost children's area and stayed with me until my parents came." I clung to his arm the whole time. I started to say, "You must have been," but I caught my words, hinting that she must have been adorable. "My dad scolded me a lot afterward," she continued. "He said grabbing people's arms like that is a sign of being spoiled. Don't rely on others, stand on your own 2 feet, he told me. And that's when I tried to break the habit of clinging to people." "So was today the first time since then?" I asked, curious. "Who knows?" she playfully responded. "But anyway, I'm glad I wasn't alone." She smiled warmly. After that, the conversation drifted to a recent visit to the dentist because of a toothache that wasn't the cavity. We also talked about our work, must definitely be because of our bosses. Before I realized it, I was talking more than I usually did. It's not just my current boss. Ever since I was born, there's always been a woman in a position above me. My sisters are 5 and 3 years older than me. Throughout elementary, middle, and high school, all my teachers were women. Even at my part-time jobs, all my bosses have been women. Are you afraid of women or something? No, I don't see it that way. It's just that. Just what? Back in my school days, I had this female friend. She'd often invite me out to drink and stuff. I'd get my hopes up, thinking something might happen, but in the end, she'd say something like, "You are just a safe bet to me." She listened to my light-hearted story with a smile on her face. Every once in a while, she'd brush her hair behind her ear with her right hand. I noticed a small mole on the back of her hand, right around where the base of her thumb is. "Are you sure you're okay with it?" She had suggested splitting the bill, but I declined, saying, "I was the one who invited you." We had forgotten to even exchange names. I couldn't tell her that I'd seen her around before. "Thank you so much for today and for treating me to dinner." "No problem. Thank you too." She walked toward the train station, looking back at me and waving 2 or 3 times. Each time, I wanted to call out to her. I wanted to stop her and exchange contact details, but I thought maybe I'd be bothering her or she might reject me. With those thoughts, I couldn't muster the courage to speak up. Waving back was all I could manage. Anyway, I'll see her again in the elevator like always. I reassured myself internally. As I watched her leave, I realized I was clenching my teeth. Simultaneously, the words of my dentist echoed in my mind. Be conscious not to clench your teeth. From then on, with a strong desire to meet her again, I'd find reasons to slip out of work and head to that building next to our office. But for some reason, I never bumped into her in the elevator again. Then one day, "Hey, Robert," while I was working on an urgent task at my desk, I was called by the laid-back voice of Amy. When I reached her office, she handed me a notice of my job reassignment. "You're being transferred to our subsidiary. Look, it's that underperforming company. Being sent to such a low-level company, I really feel for you. But maybe it's just right for someone like you. Anyway, use that little brain of yours and make sure the handover is smooth." My successor was a man from the department next to mine. Newly hired, mid-career, when the handover process began, he was quick to grasp things and had a pleasant demeanor. He was also fairly well received by our clients. My only concern was that he seemed a bit timid. 2 weeks later, I started at the subsidiary. The commute took about 20 minutes longer than before, but it was manageable. However, because I was unfamiliar with the train line, I barely made it on time that day. Panting, I rushed into the building's elevator. Our office was on the 7th floor. As I reached to press the elevator button for the 7th floor, I noticed the light for that floor was already lit. Going to the 7th floor, I was addressed by a woman standing in front of the control panel. I replied with a nod and looked up at her. What? Why? It was her, the woman from that night of the earthquake. It was a small building. Each floor was occupied by just one company. I've been working for the company on this floor for about a month now. Oh, really? Are you Robert by any chance? Yes. I had heard someone was being sent here from the parent company. I finally understood the situation from what she said. For a moment, I was taken aback. Could such a coincidence really happen? I'm Emily, the head of Sales Division 1, Team 3 at your new assignment. Unbelievable. She was my new boss. I later found out that the company I was transferred to had business dealings with the company she had worked for until a month ago. Her previous company was a small one, just a tad bigger than a sole proprietorship. The owner of that company had gotten old and decided to shut it down, so my new company recognized her talents and recruited her. After the elevator reached the 7th floor, she pressed the close button and motioned for me to exit first. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I caught her giving me a warm smile. Thus began my new chapter in life, but our relationship remained strictly professional. Then one day, she uncharacteristically raised her voice on the phone, saying things like, "That's why it's impossible. At the very least, you need to go through a charter before handing up." I approached her with some documents I needed to submit and asked, "Is everything okay?" "No, it's nothing major. I'm sorry for raising my voice." She was clearly flustered. I was curious, but I didn't press for the details and left her office. At that moment, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a call from a colleague in my old department. I stepped out into the hallway to answer. "Yes, this is Rob." Hey, we've got a situation here." Despite saying it was serious, that voice sounded oddly amused. "Weren't you having a phone dispute over there just now?" Yeah, kind of. The B called that guy Jack. He up and quit the company. Jack was my successor, and I was concerned about his timid nature. So the boss lady is fuming, yelling, "What's going on? How can he be so irresponsible? Doesn't anyone know? Guess it's your fault, huh?" It was the first I'd heard that Jack had become the boss's target. He took over right from me. I genuinely felt bad for him, but as I was wondering why the boss had called in the first place, my former colleague explained. "Since he left so suddenly, we don't have anyone to fill this spot. They tried to bring you back here for the time being, but you turned them down flat. Amy is steaming mad right now." It all clicked, and I went back into the room. Our eyes met. I felt the need to thank her and gave a nod of appreciation. It didn't take me long to adjust to the new workplace, perhaps due to the absence of the previous stressors. Even my toothaches ceased to bother me. Most importantly, work became fun. Of course, seeing Emily at work was a highlight, and she truly was a catch. Always efficient at her job and providing clear instructions to us, her subordinates. Yet, she never acted arrogant, a stark contrast to that bossy lady back at my old place. The vulnerable image I had of her from that night of the earthquake was nowhere to be found. My secret feelings for her only grew, but I thought they were just unattainable dreams. However, oh my, wallet. On my way home from work and about to hop on the subway, I realized I forgot my wallet at the office. In a rush, I headed back to the company to find Emily there alone, elbows on the desk, and her head cradled in her hands. "You're still here?" I asked. "Oh yeah, just lost in thought," she replied. "What brings you back?" "Robert left my wallet," I said. "I see." I grabbed my forgotten wallet from the drawer and asked her if she was leaving soon. Maybe I should wait up. "Let's head out together." With that, the two of us got in the elevator. "I hope it doesn't get stuck again," she murmured, looking up at the elevator's floor indicator. When I turned to her, she was already looking at me. "Is it okay?" I wasn't sure what she meant by okay. The next moment, she suddenly gripped my arm tightly, much like that night of the earthquake. But this time, even after we stepped out of the elevator and began walking, she didn't let go of my arm. My previous company was a small place. I was persuaded to join this one, but being a manager and leading people, it's quite a challenge. It seems that even she, who always appears confident at work, feels the pressure. How about grabbing some dinner? I suggested. I was thinking the same, but I have two conditions. Suddenly, she let go of my arm and took on a serious demeanor, just like at work. What are they? We'll split the bill. Okay. No sushi places. Got it. She shrugged and let out a soft chuckle. Actually, I'm not a fan of raw fish, she added. So you pushed yourself that other night? I asked. Yes, I thought. Why not? You treated me after all. We both laughed heartily. As we laughed, she grabbed my arm again, resting her head on my shoulder. She chose a barbecue place near the station. A man and a woman, just the two of us, at a barbecue joint. My heart raced, but she seemed completely unbothered. First, we toasted with draft beers. I glanced at her right hand as she held her mug. I was staring at a mole near the base of her thumb on the back of her hand. What? She noticed where I was looking and seemed puzzled. Oh, that mole on your hand. Yeah, I've been self-conscious about it before. What about the mole? I asked. Well, actually, me too, I said, showing her the palm of my left hand. Look, right here. Oh my, she said. On the palm of my left hand, I also had a mole near the base of my thumb. She laid her right hand over my extended left one. It's a perfect match, almost the same spot, she said, playfully looking at our overlapping hands. Matching the lines of our palms. It's like fate or something. She made a cheeky face, sticking out her tongue. And so we began dating. Of course, we never mixed our personal and professional lives. However, our colleagues seemed to have had an inkling about us. Then, about a year and a half later, an unexpected announcement was made. Firstly, the head of the department I was previously in, Manager Williams, was removed from her position. The HR department, concerned about the high turnover rate of employees under her direct supervision, conducted interviews and found out about Amy's arrogant behavior. She was removed from her director position and relegated to a less significant role. Then Emily was chosen as her successor, transferring from a subsidiary. It was truly a promotion for her. I was chosen to fill Emily's previous role. From tomorrow, we'll be in different departments at work, she said. We can't help it. Anyway, let's pick up from where we left off the other day. Here now, why not? She smiled mischievously. I couldn't suppress the bubbling feelings anymore. Once she sets her mind on something, she won't listen. She took the coffee cup from my hand. I extended my now empty left hand towards her. She placed her right hand over mine. Our palm lines match. It's like fate, I said, just as the toaster dinged. That's it for now. The toast is ready, she said. Darn. She and I took turns cooking that day. It was my turn to prepare breakfast, so I was in the kitchen. We'd had started living together, by the way. The reason we were moved to separate departments is that it's the company's policy that married couples can't be in the same department. Yes, we were newlyweds, fresh into our marriage. Let's continue from where we left off, she said, calling my attention. My beloved Emily was repeatedly trying to get my attention. Naturally, I presented the palm of my left hand in front of her. Then Emily playfully slapped it away. What's the matter? Still half asleep. It was Emily's voice that made me realize I had dozed off and had been dreaming of our newlywed days. The sensation of Emily's hand tapping mine brought me back to reality. About the other day, I mumbled, and Emily picked up on it. She gently placed her right hand over my left. Look at us. We've changed, haven't we? She looked at her hand with wrinkles and smiled. We've been married for almost 20 years now. Oh, found another gray hair, she said, continuing. Saying that, she began plucking out my gray hairs. It had been just 3 days since she found the first gray hairs. I can have someone as uneducated and lowly like you fired any time I want. Keep that in mind at the headquarters. Emily, who bosses around a place as the department head, hurled such harsh threats at me. The next day, President Johnson visited my department on an internal inspection. First and foremost, Emily greeted President Johnson with an almost servile eagerness. I felt like throwing up at the sight of Emily's flirty demeanor, so different from the tyrannical and arrogant face she shows to subordinates. But then the next moment, President Johnson spotted me and walked over to say something. The words he greeted me with, and then the words that continued, were utterly unexpected. Emily's eyes widened in shock, and her face turned deathly pale in an instant. I am Michael Sanders. At 28, I'm still quite nervous. This is a lesson I've learned through the experiences of my youth, which I'd like to share with you. I was born as an only child. My father ran his own company, and my mother was raised like a princess. In my early years, we were fairly well off. My father was too busy with his business to play with me, but I remember him being very affectionate when he was around. My mother, a full-time homemaker, was gentle and kind, and I was raised in a calm and peaceful atmosphere. In my faint childhood memories, we had a maid. The maid and my mother often took me to the local zoo or amusement park. These peaceful and elegant days continued until I started kindergarten. But one day during my kindergarten years, the company car carrying my father was involved in a head-on collision with a large truck. The driver died instantly, and my father, rushed to the hospital in critical condition, was barely hanging on to life. After the emergency treatment, my father somehow managed to cling to life, but remained in a critical condition, teetering on the edge between life and death for a long time. Over a month passed before his condition finally stabilized. However, he ended up almost completely bedridden and paralyzed on one side of his body. Inevitably, my father could no longer work and was forced into retirement. My father had built his company from scratch and was expanding it rapidly, so the regrets he must have felt at that moment are beyond comprehension. From then on, my father took on a tedious rehabilitation process, trying to improve his condition as much as possible at home. My father needed assistance, so my mother hired helpers for everything, which must have been hard for him. But he never complained or showed weakness. Our family's lifestyle was now sustained by my father's savings and some assets my mother, raised as a princess and physically frail, couldn't work outside while taking care of my father. So, we had to manage with what we had. Don't worry, we have enough savings and assets to keep us going for a while. Don't worry about money, my father reassured us, struggling to articulate his words. In this situation, I started elementary school and eventually became a middle schooler. Being fast on my feet, I excelled as a sprinter on the track team. In middle school, with grades in the top 10 of my class, I went on to a public high school with the highest academic standards in our district. However, I had given up on the idea of going to college by the time I was in my first year of high school. I knew our family's finances, which had been maintained by depleting savings and assets since my elementary school days, were becoming strained. While we had enough for our daily lives, my father's medical expenses took a significant toll each year, and we needed to prioritize those funds. I don't want to go to college. I'm tired of studying. Even though it was a lie, I knew that if I didn't say something like that, my parents would feel guilty for not being able to send their son to college. As a high school student, I didn't join any clubs. Instead, I worked part-time jobs to earn my allowance and cover school expenses. I wanted to lessen the burden on my family's finances. By my senior year, while everyone else in my honors class was preparing for college entrance exams, I was the only one starting to search for a job. Since going to college was the norm for everyone, my teachers weren't very helpful with my job. They did write the recommendation letters I asked for, but for the most part, I had to manage all the inquiries and arrangements with companies on my own. As a result, I received a job offer from a branch of a certain company I had hoped to join for specific reasons. Upon graduating from high school, I began working at this company as a member of the workforce. The company, though a branch of a certain corporation, was essentially treated like a subsidiary, positioned at the bottom of the group's hierarchy. During the job hunt, I had wanted to apply to the headquarters, but since the requirements stated educational background, college degree or higher, the only position available to me was at this branch. However, the branch where I was hired had good interpersonal relationships, and there was no enforced overtime work or other negative aspects, so I quickly grew to like my workplace. My job initially focused on route sales, but as I gained experience in my second and third years, I had more freedom to develop original products and explore new sales channels. As I continued to work, I found my job increasingly enjoyable and felt motivated. However, as I entered my fourth year at the company, an element began to disrupt the good atmosphere. An employee from the headquarters started to come to our branch for inspection, acting like an auditor. Although the inspection itself wasn't a bad thing, the attitude of this employee from the headquarters was horrendous, to say the least. This employee, Emily, came to our branch regularly for inspections. She was in her mid to late 20s, a few years older than me. Emily was tall, with a model-like figure, stunningly beautiful, and an elite graduate from a top university. Originally working for a foreign consulting firm right after graduating from college, Emily was headhunted to work at our headquarters. Known for her sharp and capable work ethic, despite her actress-level beauty, Emily had a cold, strong-willed personality with an incredibly high pride. "It's like God has made winners like me, blessed with both brains and beauty, and losers like you who don't have anything," Emily often said. Emily had a strong sense of superiority as an elite and habitually looked down on employees of our branch, which she considered the bottom of the group, as if we were mere insects. Especially after learning that I only had a high school diploma, she openly mocked me. "So, Michael, you're just a lowly high school graduate. I saw your resume. You went to a fairly decent public high school with a high deviation score. You must have been a real failure there." She ridiculed me mercilessly. Each time Emily insulted or slandered me, I felt deeply hurt inside, but I endured it. After all, Emily was sent from the headquarters. If I reacted to Emily's provocations and responded angrily, it could lead to repercussions for our company as a subsidiary. Knowing this, we employees had no choice but to endure Emily's mean-spirited harassment. Then one day, I was headed to work early in the morning, and on my way to the station, I encountered something unexpected. An elderly woman had collapsed on the side of the road, perhaps due to the morning rush or general apathy. No one stopped to help the fallen elderly woman. I immediately rushed to her side and asked, "Are you okay? What happened?" The elderly woman had been lying on the ground in pain with her eyes closed, and she opened her eyes in response to my voice. Weakly, she replied, "Oh, I suddenly felt dizzy and must have passed out on the street." After helping the elderly woman to her feet, she managed to stand up. Still concerned, I asked the elderly woman, "Would you like to go to the hospital?" Then she said, "No, let me contact my family first." So, I used her phone to call her family and explain the situation. While waiting with the elderly woman, a taxi arrived carrying a middle-aged woman claiming to be her family member. I was relieved and handed the elderly woman over to her family. Checking the time, I realized I was significantly late, totally late. I contacted my company to explain the situation and let them know I would be late, then headed back to the station. Upon arriving at work about 2 hours late, I was met by Emily, who had come from the headquarters. "Hey, Mr. L, educated and good-for-nothing guy. What time do you think it is? If you're going to be useless, at least be punctual. Trash will always be trash. Emily scolded me without even asking for an explanation. After that, Emily continued to torment me with her nasty remarks, but I gritted my teeth and endured it. I just have to endure. This woman is trying to provoke me on purpose to bring down this department. I fought to myself, continuing my work patiently. That afternoon, while still bearing the brunt of my hardships, I received a phone call from an unexpected person. It was a call I could never have anticipated. Months passed, and a new fiscal year began. I was transferred from the branch I had worked at since joining the company. I had been reassigned to work at the headquarters. As I made my rounds greeting people in the department I was assigned to at the headquarters, I happened to witness a scene. Emily was scolding her subordinates with an arrogant attitude. Emily's title was the office manager of this office floor, which included the department I was assigned to. I discreetly observed her reprimanding her subordinates and later interviewed them and others around the office after she left. It turned out that Emily was notorious at the headquarters for her arrogant attitude towards her subordinates and her relentless pursuit of even the smallest mistakes, resulting in a very poor reputation. Most of her subordinates were stressed and harbored discontent. I returned to my assigned department and was working when Emily, who had business with the section chief, came in and spotted me. "Why is a useless employee from a bottom-tier branch here at the headquarters?" she bluntly asked. I respectfully reiterated my reason for being at the headquarters to Emily. "I've been transferred here starting this month as per the headquarters orders." Emily reacted with exaggerated disbelief, saying, "You're just a high school graduate, right? You're supposed to have a college degree to work at the headquarters. How did someone like you get transferred here?" Unbelievable, and reluctantly accepted the fact. However, things got worse from there. From that day on, Emily started treating me as if I were one of her subordinates. She would demeaningly call me, "Hey, undereducated guy," or "Mr. High School Diploma," and started dumping menial tasks on me like making coffee or filing documents. At times, she even ordered me to clean the women's restroom. It was a clear act of harassment. Eventually, Emily started assigning me chores even during my lunch breaks. I refused, which seemed to hurt her pride, and she left with a harsh parting shot. "I can have someone as uneducated and lowly as you fired any time I want. Keep that in mind." Watching her walk away, I muttered to myself, it might be time to make a move, and made a call to someone. The next day, President Johnson of the company, claiming to be on an inspection tour, came to the floor where my department was located. Emily was the first to obsequiously greet him, her usual domineering attitude replaced with an insincere charm that almost made me nauseous. She's like a person with a double personality, I thought, disgusted by her two-faced behavior. Emily tried to curry favor with Mr. Johnson. "Yesterday, I visited your office, but it seemed you were on a call, and we couldn't speak. I've noticed you often giving work instructions or engaging in negotiations over the phone recently, and I truly admire your dedication to work. I hope to emulate that as well." Despite her fawning over Mr. Johnson, he soon spotted me and approached to greet me warmly. "Mr. Michael Sanders, the new president. We've spoken on the phone several times, but this is our first face-to-face meeting." "Welcome to the headquarters," I responded. "Thank you. I've had the chance to observe everyone's hard work here since yesterday. I look forward to working with all of you." Upon hearing our exchange, Emily's face turned ashen. "New president? What do you mean, this high school graduate?" She stammered in disbelief. Mr. Johnson frowned at her interjection and sternly reprimanded her. "Emily, watch your language." He then proceeded to explain to us the surprising truths. This company was originally founded by my father due to a traffic accident that left him severely disabled. Mr. Johnson took over his duties. I was placed in a branch for training to assess my abilities as the founder's son. Mr. Johnson carefully explained these surprising truths, which were news to everyone except me. Emily, looking more shocked than anyone, was still not convinced by my sudden appointment as the new president and protested. Even if that's the case, doesn't it seem odd? This is a large corporation with many branches and subsidiaries. Just because he's the founder's son, handing over the presidency to someone who hasn't even graduated from college is absurd enough. Emily, your discriminatory insults could constitute slander. Show some respect, Mr. Johnson scolded her firmly. He then calmly added more details. He explained that he had made the decision considering my character. The elderly lady I helped during my commute while at the branch was actually Mr. Johnson's mother. Upon learning this fact, he reached out to my father. Then the details of how my character and capabilities were reevaluated, leading to the offer of the presidency, were thoroughly explained to both Emily and the other employees. According to Mr. Johnson, the board of directors and executive committee had already unanimously approved my appointment as the new president, with only the formal announcement at the shareholders' meeting remaining. Hearing this, Emily stood frozen in shock, while the rest of the employees erupted into applause. They congratulated me, saying, "Congratulations on your new appointment as president," and "We're looking forward to working with you, President Sanders." I thanked Mr. Johnson, and the employees then said, "Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with all of you as well." Then I turned to Emily with a serious expression. Unable to rebut, I warned Emily, "I've compiled all the verbal abuse and harassment you've inflicted on your subordinates. Be aware that Mr. Johnson has been informed of your unacceptable behavior, so prepare yourself." Mr. Johnson added, "Emily, a special investigation team is currently examining your deplorable treatment of subordinates. You can expect severe disciplinary action to follow." Upon hearing that, Emily let out a loud "ah" as she looked up at the ceiling, then collapsed to the floor from her knees. Several weeks later, the punishment for Emily following the investigation report was announced. She was dismissed from her position as a disciplinary action. The investigation team detailed Emily's harassment of her subordinates and branch employees, which was found to be grossly abnormal and constituted severe violations of human rights. Furthermore, it was discovered that several individuals had resigned due to mental and physical health issues stemming from the harassment. Some of them are still unable to reintegrate into society due to the deep psychological scars inflicted by Emily. Emily had not physically assaulted anyone, but in terms of inflicting significant psychological harm, she was undeniably a criminal. Although Emily was dismissed and left the company, that was not the end. Victims of her cruel harassment, who had been forced to resign, filed lawsuits against Emily personally, demanding compensation for their suffering. As one person took legal action, other victims who had previously suffered in silence began to speak out, leading to multiple lawsuits against Emily and dragging her into a quagmire. This news eventually became a rumor and reached Emily's parents. They denounced her as a disgrace to the family and ultimately disowned her. Dismissed and with no income, Emily quickly depleted her savings and assets from her days as an elite employee and fell into debt due to legal and compensation expenses. Although she attempted to find employment, her reputation tarnished by the lawsuits related to her malicious harassment, she was rejected from elite positions. While there were some opportunities for lower-level positions or in small companies, her unyielding elite mentality and excessive pride led to repeated rejections during interviews. Once living in a luxurious high-rise condo, Emily was eventually forced to move to a cheap, run-down apartment. Now she lives in fear of debt collectors' knocks and threats, confined to her dilapidated apartment. Hearing this through the grapevine, I realized the truth of karma. Emily's current situation is dire, but I can't find it in me to feel sorry for her. After all, she inflicted far greater pain, humiliation, and bitterness on many vulnerable people. For the rest of her life, the only path left for her is to deeply reflect and live with the consequences of her actions. Each time I reflect on Emily's downfall, I use it as a moment to introspect and evaluate myself. Am I being harsh to anyone? Am I using words or actions that could hurt someone? Am I doing anything that could demotivate our employees? These questions serve as my motivation to always check that the environment at our organization allows everyone to work comfortably. Taking Emily's actions as a cautionary tale, I continue to strive for improvements in our company's environment, guided by the principle that one must not judge others based on their background, education, or personal likes and dislikes.
Hi, I'm Serena, a 30-year-old art teacher with a small art business on the side. My life took an extraordinary turn 6 years ago when I met the love of my life, Archer, at an art gallery. I had been visiting the art gallery that day with a couple of friends, but I had gotten separated from them at some point. I didn't really pay much attention to it because I was too entranced by all the art around me. Eventually, I found this beautiful piece that just called out to me. I just kept staring at all the bright and lovely colors in the painting. My mind raced with various interpretations of it. However, it turned out that painting had not only entranced me, but also another gentleman. That gentleman was Archer. It was fate. Archer and I struck up a conversation about the painting. We must have stood in front of that painting for 15 minutes, just bouncing off our interpretations back and forth. Eventually, we decided to grab a coffee, and that marked the beginning of our beautiful relationship. Over the next 4 years, Archer and I built a blissful life together. Our love for art continued to bind us. We went on amazing dates and officially became a couple pretty quickly. When we decided it was time for us to introduce each other to our parents, we started with mine. My parents warmly accepted Archer as part of our family. I hoped that I would be treated the same way by Archer's parents. However, unfortunately, I didn't. To be more specific, Archer's mother, Irene, did not like me. She made it very obvious. At first, everything seemed to go smoothly during the introduction. They appeared to like me, and I genuinely enjoyed their company. However, things took an unexpected turn when Irene inquired about my profession. When I mentioned that I was an art teacher and had an online art business, her face dropped, and I could sense her disapproval. Without hesitation, she turned to Archer and asked him if he was seriously dating someone who didn't have a real job. Her words stung, and I felt hurt that she not only disregarded my profession, but also questioned our relationship. Before I could respond, Archer's father, Oscar, intervened, instructing Irene to shut up. "Irene, please stop this judgmental behavior. It's not fair to Serena." "Well, I can't help what I think. I just don't understand why Archer is with someone like her. It's not your place to judge. Serena is a wonderful person, and she makes Archer happy. That's what matters. I just don't think her job is good enough for our family." "That's not for you to decide. Serena is passionate about her art, and she's successful in her own right. We should support her dreams. I just worry about Archer's future with her. Archer is capable of making his own choices, and he loves Serena. We should respect that." "Well, forgive me for looking out for our son." "You're not looking out for him. You're being disrespectful to both of them. If you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all." Irene fell silent, and though dinner resumed, there was an uncomfortable tension in the air. I could feel the daggers of judgment Irene was shooting at me, and I felt really uncomfortable. Thankfully, Oscar sensed the need to break the ice and asked me to talk more about myself and my art business. I was relieved to have something positive to discuss, so I enthusiastically shared my passion for art and how each piece I sold felt like a step closer to becoming a better artist. Oscar listened intently, and I couldn't help but admire his open-mindedness and genuine interest in the work I did. As the evening drew to a close, Oscar bid us goodbye. As he hugged Archer goodbye, he told Archer that he was very proud of him for choosing a partner like me. It warmed both Archer's and my hearts. Despite the evening having been a little awkward, I finally felt accepted and loved by Archer's family. Well, at least one of them. After Archer dropped me off at my home, I told him how much I liked his dad. "Oscar, you know, babe, I liked your dad. He just seemed so kind and open-minded." "Yeah, he's always been the cool parent. He cares a lot about my happiness and safety. I'm glad he thinks I'm good enough for you. But I have to admit that I'm a little worried about your mom. She didn't seem to like me. I want her to accept me too." "I know, but give us some time. She's not quick to trust new people. But I'm sure she'll come around eventually." "I hope so. I want her to see how much I care about you and how happy we are together. Just be yourself, darling. I know she'll see what I see in you. We'll take it one step at a time." "You're right. I'll do my best to win her over and show her how much I love you and your family. That's all I can ask for, and I'll support you every step of the way." The next months were wonderful. As Archer and I moved in together, it felt like a dream, and our love grew even stronger. Not long after, Archer proposed, and I happily said yes. We were going to get married, and I was so excited to be with him forever. I also kept trying to connect with Irene, even though she was unsure about me at first. I hoped that, with patience and understanding, she would come to like me. I really wanted her to see how much Archer and I loved each other and to see me as part of their family. I wanted to show her that I truly loved her son for everything he was. I even tried to get her more involved in the art scene, not because I did art, but because Archer loved it. She was still cold and dismissive to me, no matter how hard I tried. As we planned the wedding, Irene's behavior became harder to handle. She kept giving unnecessary opinions and making fun of my choices. Archer tried to stand up to her, but she didn't listen, which made me frustrated. Thankfully, Oscar always stepped in and made her behave. Our wedding day finally came, and we were determined to have a beautiful ceremony, but Irene caused trouble during the ceremony and even tried to object. Luckily, Oscar stopped her quickly, making sure nothing spoiled our special moment. At the reception, Irene's disruptive behavior continued, but Oscar saved the day again. He firmly took her out of the hall to prevent more trouble. Later that night, he called us. "I'm sorry I had to leave the reception early, but I couldn't let Irene cause more problems for you both." "Oh, please don't apologize, Oscar. We're grateful for your support and understanding." "Yeah, Dad, I feel bad you didn't get to enjoy the reception because of her." "Don't worry about it, son. Your happiness is all that matters to me. You always know how to get my tears flowing. You're so selfless." "Well, I don't mind making sacrifices for you two. Just make sure you keep my son happy, Serena. I promise I'll make your sacrifices worth it. You can count on that. I'll hold you to that promise." I felt blessed to have such a loving father-in-law. Despite Irene's difficult behavior, I found comfort in Oscar's presence and support. He cared about our happiness and stood up for us when needed. As time went on, Irene's antics only got worse. She found ways to sabotage every event we invited her to, causing tension and chaos. It reached a point where Oscar and Irene stopped attending our lunches, dinners, and many vacations altogether. Oscar didn't want Irene's behavior to cause more damage, so he chose to remove them both from these gatherings. But eventually, everything became too overwhelming for Oscar. It had been 2 years since he had properly spent time with his son. Every day, we had to deal with Irene's tantrums, and it took an immense toll on him emotionally and mentally. One night, Oscar came over to Archer's and my home, and we were shocked to see him breaking down in tears. Seeing Oscar, a stereotypically masculine man, so vulnerable, brought tears to both Archer's and my eyes. He poured his heart out to us, and we seated him in our living room. It's just so hard to deal with Irene. I never imagined she could be this way, and it's even worse that she's robbing me of time with the people I love. You don't have to go through this alone, Dad. Serena and I are here for you always. And that's right. We miss spending time with you, but we understand the situation. You do? I thought you might be upset with me for not being around. Of course not, Oscar. We know it's not your fault. You've been dealing with so much, and we appreciate all you've done for us. Yeah, Dad. We were talking about something important before you arrived. We've been considering the possibility of divorce. What? Divorce? Oh, don't worry. It's not our marriage. It's about Irene and you. We were worried about how to approach the topic with you. Yeah, we didn't want you to feel offended or hurt, but we thought it might be the best option considering everything. Oh, thank goodness. I thought you meant you two were having issues. I was ready to fight Irene if that was the case, because I knew that nothing but her could make you guys want to divorce. No, not at all. We're just concerned about your happiness and how Irene's behavior was affecting you. It's not fair that you have to struggle because of us. We want you to enjoy life and spend time with all the people you want to. Nobody should be holding you back. Yeah, you're practically Mom's parent at this point, and I don't think you wanted to ever have to do that again after I moved out. Oh, shut up, son. You were a joy to raise, but you are right about me not wanting to parent your mother. Thank you both for thinking of me. Of course, it's the least we could do after everything you've done for us. So, Dad, would you like to stay the night with us? You don't have to be in that stressful environment. I would appreciate that. I had another big fight with Irene, and I could use a peaceful night. Of course, you're welcome to stay as long as you like. Yeah, let's go get you settled in. Tomorrow we can talk more about what you want to do. Thank you for being there for me. I don't know what I'd do without you two. We feel the same way about you. We're family, and we'll face whatever comes together. That night, as I lay in bed next to Archer, my heart felt heavy with mixed emotions. I was relieved that Oscar was opening up to us and that we could support him, but I couldn't help but feel sorry for the turmoil he was going through because of Irene. I wished there was a way to help him find happiness and peace. The following day, we sat down with Oscar and discussed the divorce process in more detail. We assured him that we were there for him every step of the way. Archer and I offered our love and support, reminding him that our family would always be a source of strength for him. The next couple of days were filled with filing for Oscar's divorce, a difficult and emotional process. To maintain peace at home and avoid any disruptions, Oscar went back to Irene pretending that everything was fine. Meanwhile, Archer had picked up the finalized divorce papers on his father's behalf and kept them in his cupboard. We were all thrilled for Oscar and looking forward to spending more time with him once the divorce was official. Archer called his dad to inform him about the papers, and Oscar planned to come to our place the next night to collect them. However, things took an unexpected turn when Irene went through Oscar's call log and saw that he had been talking to Archer without telling anyone. She showed up at our home, surprising both Archer and me, When we asked why she was there, Irene revealed that she wanted to know what we had been discussing with Oscar for so many days. What I discuss with Dad is personal, and it's not something I need to share with you. How can you say that? We're family, and family should be open with each other. I have the right to know what's going on. I know that we're family, but that doesn't mean we have to share every detail of our lives. Everyone deserves their privacy and individuality. This is ridiculous. I've always been involved in your life, and now you're shutting me out. Irene, Archer has a right to his boundaries. It's not about shutting you out. It's about respecting each other's personal space. You're the reason our family is falling apart. Ever since you came into our lives, everything has changed. I understand that you might be feeling upset, but it's not fair to blame me for the issues in your family. If there's anyone to blame, it's yourself. How dare you talk back to me like that? Archer, tell your wife to talk to me with respect. Serena is right, Mom. She has always treated you with respect, but you can't expect her to take the blame for everything. Now I want you to leave our home. No, I won't leave. You can't get me out like this. I love you, but I won't tolerate this behavior. If you can't respect our boundaries, then you need to go. Fine, I'll leave, but before that, I need to use the bathroom. Well, our guest bedroom is undergoing renovations right now, so just hold it in until you get back home. Then just let me use yours. I need to go, please. Okay, fine, but be quick. As we waited for her to come back downstairs, Archer and I stayed in the kitchen. There was tension in the air, and I couldn't help but feel anxious. I wished Irene would leave soon so we could regain some peace. When Irene came back from the bathroom, she seemed determined. She had some papers in her hand and accused Archer of taking his mom's side. We were confused and asked her to explain. Irene waved the papers, claiming she found them in Archer's cupboard. Then she threw them at me. I was surprised and tried to catch them, but when I read what was written, I got even more confused. I don't get it. Why do you look so happy? Oh my God, can you not read? Those are divorce papers. Archer was tired of you. Now my family can finally go back to how it used to be. Why are you laughing? Are you crazy? No, you've got it all wrong. Archer is not divorcing me. What do you mean? I saw these papers in Archer's cupboard. I don't know if you can read, Irene. Those papers aren't signed by Archer. They're signed by your husband, Oscar. They're the divorce papers that Oscar was planning to give you. What? But why? It was a funny moment to see Irene thought that I'd be a sobbing, inconsolable mess once I saw the divorce papers. And to see her become just that was so funny. Her plan to cause trouble backfired, and I felt triumphant. I realized how twisted Irene's thinking was. Instead of seeing how her actions pushed Oscar away, she assumed the worst about Archer and me. Setting boundaries with her was important. Seeing Irene's shocked expression made me happy. It showed we needed to stand our ground and not let her control us. Archer and I knew this was a turning point in dealing with her. I wondered how this revelation would change her behavior. Would she see the consequences of her actions and change? Or would she keep causing problems? Only time would tell. As Oscar walked into the house, he saw Irene with the divorce papers in her hands, and he knew it was time to make a life-changing decision. Irene saw him and immediately started yelling, demanding to know why he was divorcing her. Why are you divorcing me, Oscar? I can't believe you would do this. Irene, how did you get hold of the papers? Mom snooped around our room with the excuse of needing to use the bathroom. I needed to find out what you were both hiding from me. This is exactly why I can't continue with our marriage. You never respect my or anyone else's privacy or boundaries. I'm sorry. I promise I'll change. Please give me another chance. I've given you chances before, but you never change. I can't be with someone who is so disrespectful and inconsiderate. Dad's right. Your behavior is hurting all of us. Please, I'll do whatever it takes. Don't give up on me. It's too late. This decision is final. Mom, it's time to leave now. Reluctantly, Irene left the home, sobbing as she went. It was a painful scene to witness, but it was a necessary step for Oscar to reclaim his happiness and for Archer and me to have a healthier and more peaceful life together. In the aftermath of Irene's departure, our family dynamic shifted. Oscar's presence in our lives grew, and he spent more time with us than he had in years. It was heartwarming to see the bond between Archer and his father strengthen. Oscar's warmth and support were a beacon of comfort for both of us, and we cherished the time we spent together as a family. Over time, we learned to heal from the wounds left by Irene's destructive behavior. Archer and I supported each other through the process, growing even closer as a couple. We learned that we could face any challenge together as long as we had love and understanding between us. As the months passed, Irene tried to reach out to Oscar, seeking forgiveness and reconciliation, but Oscar stood strong in his decision, knowing that he deserved a life free from the constant turmoil that Irene brought. Instead of giving in to her pleas, he focused on building a life filled with happiness and positivity. Archer and I supported Oscar every step of the way. We knew that healing would take time, but we were determined to create a brighter future together. And with Oscar's guidance and love, we started to mend the scars left by Irene's toxic influence. In the end, the divorce from Irene marked a new beginning for all of us. We found strength in unity and the importance of setting healthy boundaries. With Oscar's unwavering support, Archer and I grew as individuals and as a couple. We chose to focus on the love we shared and the possibilities of a beautiful life ahead.
Hello, guys. My name is Rose, and this is my story. My mother-in-law, Sherry, is a vain and shallow woman. It's not like she had always been like this. Her behavior change happened later in life, or at least that's what my husband, Dylan, swears. Dylan and Sherry didn't grow up very rich. They lived a moderate life, just the two of them. Dylan's father passed away when he was 4. Since then, Sherry was the one who became the breadwinner. They lived a simple life until Dylan found a great job after college. I'm not saying this because he is my husband, but Dylan is a very intelligent and kind man. He got a full ride to medical school and became a doctor. After that, Sherry started to live a luxurious life. Meanwhile, Dylan stayed humble. Do you know why I'm giving you all this backstory? Because I still don't understand how and why Sherry became such a shallow woman. Look, I don't have a job for several reasons that I will mention later, but that doesn't mean I am poor or rely on others for help. Somehow, Sherry got that impression of me when we first met. I don't know if it was my clothes or my mannerisms that repelled Sherry. On our first meeting, she said, "Dylan, this is the girl you've been raving about. She's so plain and average. Why would you even choose someone like this girl? Do you even have a job?" My name is Rose. Sherry, no, I don't have a job. But just as I thought, so you plan to trap my son and drain all his money. Look, girl, I know women like you. You are nothing but gold diggers and parasites. Don't think that you can fool me. Mom, that is so rude of you. Do you even know what you are saying? Rose is a great girl coming from a great family. You have no right to talk to her like that. Dylan, how can you talk to me like that? I'm only trying to look out for you. You can't spoil the name of our family by marrying this classless woman. You have to better your standards. She's not of our social or economic status. That is very clear. This led to Dylan and Sherry having a full-blown fight right in front of me. Dylan was getting pretty mad, so we decided to leave. On our way back home, Dylan apologized for his mother. He said, "I'm so sorry, Rose. My mom doesn't know how to act like a sane person anymore. I know that her words have hurt you. Dylan, it's not your fault, but your mom seems to be a horrible lady. Please don't mind her words. But I don't think I'll ever be comfortable around her. Rose, you know that she's the only parent I have left. We don't have a lot of extended family either. I can't cut her off completely. I'll never push for you to be friends with her, but at least can you be civil around her? I can act respectfully towards your mom, Dylan, but I don't think your mom will be able to do that. Don't worry, Rose. I'll keep her in check. If she escalates her behavior, we can think about going low contact or something. I love my mom, but I also love you. I won't let her keep harassing you for nothing." I was a little skeptical of how my and Sherry's relationship would be like. Dylan did assure me that he would stand up for me, but somehow I still felt uneasy. Me and Dylan got married 3 years after we started to date. We had a court wedding because we were short of funds. Why, you may ask? Well, Dylan was sending Sherry a lot of money every month because of her emergencies. Even after getting married, Dylan was giving his mother a big amount every month. It was starting to affect our finances, but I didn't stop him. I always thought that he had the right to help his mom. However, Cher was becoming a big problem for me. She regularly talked ill about me and gossiped with her friends. I knew that she had been telling everyone what a gold digger I was. I usually ignored these comments, but it was starting to affect my reputation. Cher also never acted nice to me, despite Dylan's efforts to bring us closer. Sherry was adamant that I was beneath her and didn't deserve her son. Surprisingly, one day Dylan said, "Rose, Mom called me today about something. She's hosting a small party and wants to invite you." "Are you sure she wants to invite me?" I asked. "I don't see why she would do that since she hates me." "I've talked to her multiple times, Rose. She's promised to be better." "I guess that's why she's inviting you to the party," Dylan replied. "That's strange, Dylan. I wonder where she is getting so much money to party. Just this month she said that she needed money for car repairs. I guess she managed somehow. It's a small gathering of 4 people or so, Rose. It won't be very expensive. Mom seems excited about the part and she wants you there." "Well, if that's what she wants, I'll go. You know that I don't mind spending time with her. It's just her comments and behavior towards me that's creating problems. It looks like Mom is making an effort. Let's see what happens. Just keep an open mind about this." "I really want you two to become friends," Dylan said. I highly doubted that Sherry would ever be friends with me. I mean, I can be civil to her and try from my side because I love Dylan, but it didn't seem like Sherry cared anything about Dylan's happiness. Even though I was skeptical, I decided to go to the party. But I had to wait to get details from Sherry about it. Sherry texted me the very next day. I thought that she was going to invite me through these texts. Well, this is what happened instead. Sherry texted, "Hey Rose, Dylan may have told you that I've been planning a party recently," she began. "Yes, Sherry, Dylan mentioned it to me last week." "Are you texting to talk about that?" I replied. "Why else would I text you, Rose? You're no use to me anyway. So I've been planning to go to this 5-star hotel in town. Everyone has been raving about it. I promised my friends that I would take them there. This is finally my opportunity." "That's nice of you, Cher. Will there be a lot of people?" "Yes, of course." You know that I have many friends since I am a wealthy lady. My family has a good name in this town, Rose. I'm going to take 15 people to the party. We're going to have a blast. Sounds like a great plan, sure. Would you want me to get there? Who the hell said that you could come? I didn't invite you yet, guys. I was a little taken aback by this. I mean, Dylan clearly told me that his mom was going to invite me. Apparently, Sherry had said so to him herself. He was genuinely happy for the past week because he saw this as Sherry trying to build a relationship with me. But what Sherry said threw me off completely. In fact, I was really confused as to why she was even telling me about the party if she didn't want to invite me. I said, "Oh, I assumed I was invited since you told Dylan that I was." I'm a little confused. Dylan can get a little carried away at times. Rose, I'm just informing you that I will be hosting a party. You are not invited. This is a posh place. Me and my friends are very particular about who we take with us. I know I am throwing a party at a 5-star hotel, but you dare not come because you are not classy like my family and friends. Okay, sure. I got the message loud and clear. Don't worry, since you don't want me to come, I won't. I don't care what Dylan said. If you don't want me to come, I won't. This is your day, and I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. I'm glad that we cleared that up, Rose. That's all I had to say. Now I need to get back to planning the party. I have a lot to do. You won't understand since you have probably never been to a big party, let alone planned one. After that, I didn't send her any reply. People know me to be patient and kind, but I have my limits like everyone else. Sherry was testing me today. I hated myself for having even a little hope that Sherry would extend an olive branch. Nope, she was just showing off her status and making me feel inferior again. There was no olive branch. I was wrong and felt stupid, but I knew how to preserve my dignity. I wasn't going to curse her out on anything. I had much better things to do. Karma would come for her one day. I knew that for sure. I didn't tell Dylan anything and simply waited for the day of the party to arrive. On the day of the party, Sherry had the gall to send me a nice picture with her and her friends. They were dressed from head to toe in designer stuff and were busy posting pictures on their social media handles. Sure sent me the picture to show me how classy her friend circle is. It was downright disgusting. I didn't entertain her with a reply. I went back to work and waited. After about 3 hours, I got a call from my dad. Now here is where I should confess something to you guys. My dad is the owner of the hotel that Sher was going to. Sherry had no idea about that. 3 years back, I got a nice inheritance from my grandfather, which I invested in my father's business. So now I get a part of the profits from the hotel and the other businesses that my dad owns. I actually come from a pretty well-off family, but I don't like to broadcast that to the world. That's why Sher didn't know about my background. She also didn't know how expensive a 5-star hotel and its restaurant can be. She let her friends order what they wanted without even looking at the menu and its prices. The result? She was left with a $22,000 bill that was exactly what ruined her and gave me my revenge. My dad called and said, "Your mother-in-law is at the hotel, Rose. She came here with a party and ordered a hell of a lot of stuff from the menu. She racked up a bill of $22,000 with all the food and champagne. Now she's asking for a 50% discount as she's short on cash. What should I do, Rose? I know she is your mother-in-law, but it is a lot of money. My servers are also pissed at them. Because they were rude and entitled, God, just as I expected, Dad. This woman and her team are absolutely horrible. They have no respect for people and love to make fun of others. You know, she boasted to me about today's party and said that I was not invited. What the hell? Why would she do that to you? That is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Dad, she told me about the party to throw it in my face that I wasn't invited to it. She said that I was not classy or rich enough to get an invite. That's funny coming from the woman who doesn't even have the money to pay for her party. You should have seen her arguing that we need to give her a discount. She said that since she got us so much business, she deserves the discount. She went to the restaurant one day and is already claiming that she brings all the business. So typical of Rose. Just listening to this is exhausting. No wonder what you and our poor staff are going through. I know, right? That woman even threatened to leave bad reviews if we didn't oblige. We know better than to get scared of that. I'm going to leave this to you, Rose. Looks like you have the perfect chance to take revenge for what she said to you. That's exactly what I had been thinking, Dad. You know what I have in mind. Make her wash the dishes. Get her team to join as well. Make sure they clean the entire kitchen, the dishes, and the floor since they insulted our staff as well. Let's get them some revenge too. Tell them to stay back and only watch the party. Clean everything. If my mother-in-law tries anything stupid, you can call the cops on her. My dad laughed at my suggestion and gave me a big thumbs up. He even offered to share pictures of the event when it happened. I really would have loved to see Sherry reap what she has sown. Dad promised to do as I suggested and hung up. An hour or so later, Dad sent me pictures of Sherry and her friends washing dishes and wiping the floor at our restaurant. Dad also said that when Sherry saw him come out as the restaurant owner, she looked really relieved. She started to tell her party that she knew the owner and they would get out of the situation. She was extremely taken aback when Dad told her to go clean his restaurants. Apparently, she was dumbstruck for a while and started to mutter something. Dad said that since she didn't consider me family, he wasn't considering her family either. It was hilarious. I wish I was there, but I did get some good pictures. After a while, Dylan came home looking pretty pissed off. I could tell that he had heard from Sherry what had happened. I also knew that Sherry must have given him a twisted account of the events that followed. He walked up to me and said, "Rose, what is this I'm hearing? Your father made my mom wipe down his restaurant and wash the dishes. She said that you told your dad to do this. What is going on?" Sorry about that, Dylan. Dad did what is the usual norm for us in this situation. Your mother went to our restaurant, racked up a $2,000 bill, and then said that she didn't have more than $1,000. She also harassed our staff, and her party has been a nightmare, so I thought only this would be a fitting punishment. Wait a minute, Rose. Mom racked up a $2,000 bill. Who the hell did she take with her? What did they order? She took 15 people with her, Dylan. They ordered a lot of stuff, especially the fancy ones. I thought you knew about this. Mom told me that she is taking 4 people only, and she told me that she invited you, but you declined. No, Dylan, things didn't happen that way. Your mom did tell me about her party, but she didn't invite me. She did tell me that I didn't deserve an invite for not being as classy as her. I can show you the text if you want. What the hell, Rose? Yes, please show me the text, and please ask Vance to send me the bills. I showed Dylan all the text, and my dad sent him the bills. I also showed him some of the pictures to make him understand how many people Sherry took with her. Dylan got extremely mad when he saw everything. He called Sherry and said, "Mom, what the hell is wrong with you? You didn't tell me the full story. You only told me that you were a few dollars short of cash." I told you the truth, Dylan. God, that wicked woman, Rose, must have given you a different story. I swear, Dylan, she purposely tried to sabotage me. That's why she declined my invitation. Is that so, Mom? Then why did your text to her say that she wasn't invited? And why did you insult my wife by saying that she is not classy enough for you? Oh, Dylan, it was just, a harmless joke. What was a harmless joke, Mom? The fact that you are calling your daughter-in-law names while spending thousands of dollars that you took from your son. Does being classy mean you have to rob your family and spend it on friends to look cool? Well, I just wanted a small party for me, Dylan. I don't know what the big deal is. You think spending $2,000 freaking dollars on food and drink isn't a big deal? Do you think my money grows on trees? You are insane, Mom. I guess I was wrong to give you money whenever you gave me sob stories about needing it. Well, guess what, Mom? I'm not giving you any freaking money again. But Dylan, you've been so supportive for me for so long. You can't just stop now. It was a one-time mistake, Dylan. Why are you overreacting? No, Mom, I'm not overreacting. This is not a one-time mistake. If you can't even consider my wife as family, I don't want anything to do with you. I always thought that you would change your mind, but you never did. I'm not paying you to insult my wife and call her classless while she sacrifices a lot to support you. This ends now, Dylan. Dylan, please listen to me. I am sorry. Dylan didn't listen to Sherry anymore. He hung up on her and blocked her number. He also apologized to me profusely for being mad at me without knowing the full story. I forgave him because, well, he did stand up for me. We had a serious discussion about Sher and jointly decided that she will no longer be in our lives for now. Yes, Dylan is now a rich man, but he knows to stay humble. He found Sherry's behavior completely unacceptable, especially because it was directed towards me. I agreed with the fact that it was very unfair to me that Sherry treated me like that, and I was all set to remove her from our life for good. In the next few days, Sherry reached peak madness. She realized that her own actions may have damaged her relationship with her son for good. That sent her into a horrible panic. She showed up at our house and demanded to speak with Dylan. Slowly, her demands turned into begging after she was turned away from the door every time. Yes, Sher worked to earn some money. However, it wasn't enough for the high-end lifestyle that she had gotten used to all these years. Dylan had stopped giving her money entirely. Instead, he invested some of his funds into my dad's business to help him open new hotels and restaurants in the neighborhood towns. We do plan on taking our hotel business to bigger cities, but we will have to see what the future holds. Since Dylan stopped sending her funds, Sherry had to downgrade her lifestyle a lot. She was struggling to keep the rented condo with her own money and ultimately decided to end her lease. She has now shifted to a small one-bedroom apartment and doesn't have any money to spend on extras after all the bill payments. How do we know this? She emails us about it, of course. She still downplays her behavior and acts like we are overreacting. Suffice it to say, she will be out of our lives for a while now. Just a month ago, I found out that I was pregnant. Me and Dylan are overjoyed and busy planning everything before the baby comes. To be honest, I'm glad that my child won't be around shallow people like Sher anymore. But if the time comes, I will make sure my dear mother-in-law doesn't get to fill my child's head with nonsense. For now, please wish us luck so that we can be good parents to a healthy child.
My name is Dana, and today you're going to listen to my story. I had the same mother-in-law problem that a lot of people here seem to have, honestly. I was surprised to see so many entitled mother-in-laws roaming around. It is pretty scary. My mother-in-law, Vivian, is also an entitled and delusional woman. I realized that as soon as I married my husband, Carter. Vivian wasn't dependent on us, but did have a tendency to assume ownership of everything around her. She even calls our stuff hers if she lays her hand on it. This behavior stemmed from the fact that she was a super greedy woman and liked to have a luxurious life. Unfortunately for her, she never had the money for it. For the most part, Vivian and I managed to avoid conflicts, mostly because I kept my mouth shut. But once, a big incident escalated and changed the way I dealt with her. You see, at that time, I had recently gotten a vintage car in my possession. It was my grandfather's car that was left to me in his will after he passed away. Back then, that car was super important to me, and I was glad to have it with me. But to my mother-in-law, it was just another thing that needed to be sold and the money shared with her. Carter and I had avoided telling her about the car because we knew she would say something ridiculous like, "Sell the car and give me money." And Vivian didn't disappoint at all. Vivian was staying with us for a couple of days because her house was under emergency renovation. Totally her fault, but that story is for some other day. So Vivian moves into our home and immediately refers to it as hers. It was annoying, but I ignored her like I always do. Now the real problem occurred when she checked out the garage and found my vintage car there. She was immediately back in the house and said, "Why is there a vintage car in your garage?" "Oh, that's my car, actually. I recently got it from my grandfather who just passed away. So you can say it was my inheritance." "That is a freaking expensive car. I Googled it and it says that the price is around $100,000. That is a lot of money." "I hope you're not thinking about keeping it." "Of course I'm keeping it. It was my late grandfather's car and has a lot of sentimental value attached to it. There is no way I'm selling it." "You are absolutely insane. Listen to me, Dana. Think about what I said. You can sell the car and do so much with the money. You're being selfish by keeping the car and not selling it. We, as your family, deserve to enjoy your inheritance as well." Vivian's words were downright delusional. First of all, what I did with my private property wasn't her business. Secondly, I wasn't obligated to share my assets with her. What the hell was wrong with her? I really didn't know how to respond to her, so I left her be, and hoped that she wouldn't bring up this topic again. Well, I was wrong. She was super persistent and kept bringing it up. That night, when we were quietly enjoying our dinner, Vivian brought up the topic of selling my car again. She suddenly said, "So, have you thought about what I said? Did you make the decision to sell your car?" "For the last freaking time, Vivian, I'm not selling my car." "That is just not possible. This is completely unacceptable. Dana, you cannot simply have a car that costs so much. You are not a millionaire. Your Honda is good enough for you. You need to think about your family and sell the car and split the money. That way, everyone will get to enjoy it." "You cannot dictate what I do with my car, Vivian. That is totally up to me. I don't mind having the car sit in my garage. It is a sentimental car, and I always wanted to inherit it. I am not selling it to anyone." "Carter, you need to tell your wife that she should sell the car. She can't just have an expensive car sitting around when we can have the money." Vivian had expected Carter to take her side. I can see why she would think that. Carter had a hard time saying no to her or setting proper boundaries, but he had been learning and getting better. So, imagine Vivian's shock when Carter said, "Mom, it is her car, so she will decide what to do with it." You already heard her. The car has a lot of sentimental value. If she doesn't want to sell it, we are no one to force her. "But Carter, it's just so much money." "Even if it is a lot of money, that money is all hers. We don't get to decide what she wants to do with it. Let her be, Mom. You are being too invasive. You shouldn't comment on things that we privately own." Vivian looked pretty deflated by her son's words. Like I said, she had expected him to listen to her and take her side. When he didn't do that, she knew that all hope was gone. She didn't stop trying, though. She always made small comments about the car and how it would be so nice to have $100,000 in cash. It was getting downright annoying, but I was ignoring it. Apparently, I should have done better because she managed to steal and sell my car from right under my nose. One morning, when I was about to leave for work, I saw that my vintage car was missing. I was in the garage and was going to drive my Honda to work, but when I opened the garage, I saw that my car was nowhere in sight. I panicked and started to think the worst. The garage was open, but it didn't look like it had been broken into. Carter's car wasn't in its place because he had left for work way before me, so there was no way he had taken the car either. Someone must have stolen it. I immediately called work and took a day off to figure out what was going on. That car was precious to me, and I couldn't rest until it was back in its place. I frantically called Carter just to make sure he didn't know anything about the missing car. "Carter, did you take my car by any chance? It's not in the garage." "What? No, I took my Mustang. What do you mean it's not in the garage? I saw it right there before I left." "I don't know, Carter. It's not in the garage anymore. I discovered it missing when I opened the garage to take my Honda to work." "I'm freaking out, Carter." "Calm down, Dina. We will find out where the car is. You need to go check our security cameras and see who took it. You can call the cops as soon as you find something. I wish I could help, but I'll be in an important meeting in a few minutes. Still, you can call me if needed." Carter calmed me down before telling me what I should do next. He was right. I needed to check the security cameras first. I opened the app on my phone and pulled up the videos of that morning. There, I found something really strange and disturbing. I saw that it was my freaking mother-in-law who had taken the car, even after I told her hundreds of times not to touch the damn car. She didn't listen. I was extremely pissed. I called her and recorded the conversation. "Vivian, where the hell are you? Why did you take my car?" "I'll relax now, will you? I just took it out for a short ride." "No. You need to come back right now. I need my car back. I didn't give you permission to use it. It was sitting in your garage, Dina. Since you don't want to sell it, I might as well make good use of it." "Now stop calling me. I'll come back home when I come home." I was fuming at Vivian. To be honest, I almost called the cops on her. I was that furious. But I decided to give her a chance. She was my mother-in-law, after all. If she returns my car without any damage, I would just make her face some consequences and make sure this doesn't happen again. In that case, I would not need the cops to get involved. I really didn't want to waste their time for nothing. But when Vivian didn't return for a while, I was starting to change my mind. What I didn't know was that things were about to get much worse. After an hour, I heard Vivian come in through the door. I was surprised to see that she hadn't come back with my car. I immediately knew that something was wrong. What was more worrying was the fact that she had brought several shopping bags with her. They were all luxury brands that she definitely couldn't afford. I ran up to her to confront her and ask her what the hell was going on. I angrily stopped her and said, "What the hell, Vivian? Where is my car?" "It's sitting in your driveway." "I'm talking about my vintage car, Vivian. Where is it? What did you do?" "Oh, you mean your vintage car? Well, I guess you can say goodbye to your $100,000 car." "Oops, too late. It's already gone." "What do you mean it's too late? You need to be more clear, Vivian. I'm running out of patience." "I did what you should have done a long time ago. I sold your car." Vivian said that very nonchalantly. She literally had no remorse. In fact, she looked very pleased with herself when she said that. My anxiety had now converted into just pure rage. I couldn't believe what Vivian was saying. She just said that she sold my freaking vintage car. I tried not to yell at her, but it was difficult since I was close to exploding. "You sold my car? Are you serious right now?" "Yes, I'm very serious, Dina. I sold your car today itself. It did bring in some good money. How do you think I paid for all that stuff?" "Let me just recount everything to see if I got it right. You stole my car, And instead of returning it safely to my garage, you sold it for cash? Yes, that's exactly what I did. Why do you look so surprised, Dina? I told you that you need to sell the car. Having such an expensive car sitting in the garage is a waste of money. Are you freaking insane, Vivian? Who gave you the right to steal my property and sell it for your own benefit? Whoa, you're getting ahead of yourself, Dina. I do plan on using the money for family stuff too. I've just booked plane tickets to Alaska. We will have a nice time at a ski resort that I always wanted to go to see. I'm not the only one who will be enjoying the money. If you behave, I might give you some of the money so that you can buy something for yourself too. Vivian was just making my blood boil. I was so freaking close to losing it. Some part of my brain refused to believe what Vivian was saying. It was difficult to comprehend someone being so damn entitled that they would sell something that isn't theirs. But with my mother-in-law, everything was possible. Despite everything, I decided to give her one more chance. I said, "Listen to me, Vivian. You will take your car, drive to the place where you sold my car, and bring it back to me right now. I will say this only once. Take this as your last chance not to mess up your life." Are you threatening me, Dina? Well, that's not going to work. The car is sold, and I already spent some of the money. Besides, I didn't sell it just so you can demand to bring it back. So you are saying that you won't bring my car back? I gave you a chance to reserve your stupidity, and you won't take it, is that right? Dina, there's no way I'm bringing your car back. Like I said, it's long gone. Now you can go drive your Honda for all I care. All right then. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Vivian didn't even bother to hear the last part. She simply took her shopping bags and went to her room. My mind was spinning at the freaking audacity of this insane woman, but I knew that yelling at her wouldn't work. I needed to act fast if I wanted to get my car back, so I did what any sane person would do. I called the cops and told them what happened. The cops were at my house in 15 minutes. By that time, I went and fetched the papers that said the car belonged to me. I welcomed the cops inside and showed them all the proof. I also showed them the security footage of my mother-in-law driving away with my car and not returning it. They saw it all and decided to call Vivian. She came downstairs looking annoyed, but froze when she saw the cops waiting. She then sweetly said, "Good afternoon, officers. What brings you to my home? Is my daughter-in-law in some sort of trouble?" "Mom, your daughter-in-law is pressing charges against you for stealing and selling her car illegally." "Oh no, there must be some mistake, officers. As you can see, her car is sitting right in the garage. She's just being mean by calling you here." "Mom, this is not about the Honda you're pointing at. We're talking about the vintage car that you sold today." "There is no vintage car in my house, officers. This might be some sort of misunderstanding." "We are not that rich to own a vintage car, Mom. We literally have paperwork and video evidence of everything. Plus, there is insurance involved. There is no use lying to us." When the officers made it clear that her lies wouldn't work, Vivian changed tactics. She came up with a different sort of lie. Honestly, it was quite amusing to see her invent some crazy stories to cover up her crime. She looked a little embarrassed and said, "Oh, that one. Officers. I might have gotten confused. Yes, she used to own a car like that, but she asked me to sell it. So that's what I did today." "Why the hell are you lying to the officers, Vivian? I never gave you permission to even drive the car, let alone steal it." "Dina, what the hell? You can't just change your mind like that. Are you doing this to trap me? That is so wicked." "Officers, you must understand that Dina is trying to trap me. I swear she gave me permission to sell it." "Oh, really, Vivian? So how do you explain your phone call where I clearly said that you need to bring my car home and I don't want you driving or touching it?" "What phone call, Dina? You're just talking nonsense. I simply pulled out my phone and played the call recording where I was telling Vivian to come home and leave my car alone. It also had proof that I didn't give her permission to use the car, and I wanted the car home, not sold off to some illegal business. The officers listened to the voice recording and were very annoyed. They gave Vivian the most "don't mess with us" look and said, "Are you going to come up with more lies, or is that it?" Well, I can explain. Just hear me out. You don't need to do that anymore, Mom. You can talk at the police station now. You're under arrest for the theft of your daughter-in-law's car. Now Vivian looked really afraid. She was gulping hard and started to have tears in her eyes. She tried to come up with more lies, but the officers cuffed her without listening. She should have shut up, but her anxiety didn't let her. Instead, she decided to ask me for help. Yes, she literally changed her demeanor within a few minutes. She went from being confident to a scared animal begging for help. She turned to me and said, "Dina, you can't let this happen. You can't make your own mother-in-law get arrested. Think of what people will say." "I don't care what people will say, Vivian. You committed a crime and need to be arrested, and I will do anything to get my car back." "It's just a car, Dina. There's no reason to get me arrested for that. We can talk and work this out. Trust me, you don't want your mother-in-law getting arrested. We're family." "You sure didn't care about my family when you sold my car. You literally sold a piece of my family's history. You don't get to play the family card." Now Vivian was already in tears and kept begging me to let it go. She was delusional, and she thought that I was going to let her get away with her horrendous behavior. She tried pleading with me up until she was taken to the cop car. But before she got in, she shouted at me, "This is not the end, Dina. I will get my son involved. He will put you back in your place." "Well, good luck with that, Vivian. I'm sure your son will do what is right. You worry about getting out of jail," I said. "Goodbye to my car, but you will say hello to a lawsuit. You will get nothing. My son will protect me. He will come to rescue me and kick you out of the house," she retorted. Her son did go to the police station, but not to rescue her. When Carter called me and asked what was going on, I told him to meet me at the police station. I needed to go physically file a case, so it would be better for me to meet him there. Plus, I wanted to see Vivian's face when Carter made his assessment of the situation. Carter and I met and went straight to Vivian. She saw him and started to cry. "Carter, look what your wife has done. She hates me so much that she put me in jail. I cannot be here, Carter. You need to do something," she pleaded. "Dina, what's going on? Why did you put Mom in jail?" Carter asked. "Hey, Vivian, want to explain to your son what you did with my car?" Vivian was now suddenly very quiet. She was thinking of an explanation that would make her look less bad. Unfortunately for her, she couldn't come up with anything. She remained quiet with her head down. Carter said, "Mom, say something. Why are you quiet?" "What will she say, Carter? She stole and sold my car to someone, then she came home with shopping bags and informed me that she has booked us a vacation in freaking Alaska," I explained. "Wait, what? Mom, what the hell did you do?" Carter asked incredulously. "Oh, there was more, Carter. The cops got a name out of her. They contacted the man, and he said that the car had been damaged a little after delivery, so this will be a big lawsuit." "I can already see $1 million, I continued. "Oh my God, Mom, what have you done? I told you to stay the hell away from Dina's car. Why can't you just listen for once?" Carter's tone was firm, something Vivian hadn't heard from him before. She was surprised and did not like this at all. She was now crying and trying to make him feel bad for her, but I knew that Carter wouldn't save her this time. He knew where to draw the line. "Son, you need to get me out of here. I can't be in this place. You have to convince Dina to drop the case. I cannot afford the lawsuit, you know that," Vivian begged. "Why the hell would I do that, Mom? You are the one who committed a crime by doing something so utterly stupid. If you don't help me, my life will be ruined. I'll be broke and still need to serve in jail. You should have thought about that before committing a crime. I will support Dunna and what she is doing. This time, you have taken things too far. I cannot forgive this." "Mom, you are on your own," Carter responded firmly. "Vivian kept begging us to help and change her mind. Yes, she went back to begging me for forgiveness as well. Not that I was going to listen to her." Carter was extremely pissed and decided to leave the police station with me. He was really apologetic about his mom's actions and said that he would never forgive her for this. He actually encouraged me to pursue my case and get my car back. I did eventually get my car back. It took a while. The car was in a small accident with the buyer and got badly dented. With vintage cars, repair costs can skyrocket. All these, along with lawyer fees and all, Vivian did end up paying $1 million for the lawsuit. She was forced to sell her own childhood home and take on debts as well. It was a horrible situation for her, but she didn't have our sympathy. Carter made it clear to her that we didn't want her around anymore. He also said that she better not expect to hear from us for a long time. That got her crying and throwing a tantrum again. Word of her arrest and the lawsuit spread like wildfire. Her friends dropped her because they didn't want to associate with criminals. Her family was also extremely pissed with her because who the hell sells stuff that they stole from others? I was truly glad to see that the rest of the family had sane people. Anyway, we're still in no contact with Vivian, and the lawsuit has been settled. I got back my car and had a very experienced mechanic work on it. It was all paid for by my dear mother-in-law, of course. The mechanic was so good that you wouldn't even know that it was damaged. So I got my new car, while Vivian lost her own house and is now living in a rented apartment, alone and desperate for company.